The Prime Minister's continuing the pressure on Israel for full transparency in the wake of the tragic death of 7 aid workers, including an Australian.
Zomi Frankcom should have been safe, and her being killed in this way is a catastrophic event. They have committed to a full and proper investigation. I want that to be transparent, and I want those findings to be made public. And what isn't good enough is the statements that have been made, including that this is just a product of war. This is against humanitarian law.
Let's bring in Liberal MP Zoe McKenzie. The Prime Minister really strengthening his language today, saying it's against humanitarian and international law what's gone on here with the aid convoy hit, and it can't be dismissed as simply something that's happened in the fog of war. Do you agree with this assessment?
Look, Kieran, it's an absolute tragedy what happened to Zomi Frankcom and her colleagues in Gaza earlier this week. 7 aid workers fulfilling their service, their duty to others, doing absolutely essential work in that part of the world, and to have lost their lives in such circumstances is an absolute catastrophe. The Prime Minister has been right to demand full accountability and a full report, as has Rishi Sunak and Joe Biden. Israel has promised that there will be a full and independent investigation. That is the right thing to do, and we all look forward to that, so that there can be some certainty that such a disaster will never happen again. One thing I would say is we need to be very careful with our language at this point in time. We saw terrible anti-Israel sentiment in this country since October. We have seen terrible acts of anti-Semitism. We must be careful that nothing that is said exacerbates that and brings us back to the worst of what we've seen, certainly in my hometown over the summer periods. And so it is a disaster what happened in Gaza. Israel will be held to account and asked to explain, but we must be careful about the language we use on this topic.
And the fact is that as a democracy, this is the rare thing. When aid workers are hit, it's not normally in a circumstance where it would be by a like-minded or an ally, a democracy like Israel. It's not stating anything unusual to state that this is a diabolical situation in that enclave of Gaza. It's a very small area. They've made a mistake clearly in relation to this. No one is suggesting, I think, that this was a targeted and deliberate attack. But the problem is for Israel, is it not? And you've spent time there this year. The impact internationally of these events are so damaging.
Of course. One of the problems we see here is that Israel is being held to a completely different standard from Hamas. We have to remember, Israel did not start this conflict. It started on the 7th of October when terrorists came into Israel and destroyed villages, killed people and took people hostage who remain taken hostage to this date. What needs to happen is that Hamas surrenders, that Hamas returns the hostages to their families in Israel, and that the rebuild can begin. When I was in Israel in December, let me tell you, every interlocutor, every conversation I had was about how to build back Gaza, how to build back a safe and prosperous Gaza, one in which you don't have military hardware under the bed of children in their homes, and you don't have billions of dollars spent on tunnels for warfare under hospitals. That is what is needed, a new approach for Gaza, a safe and prosperous Gaza. And I heard plenty of determination to create exactly that from Israeli interlocutors, whether they were MPs, ministers, mayors of towns that have been affected, that determination to move on. But that cannot happen while a terrorist government reigns in Gaza. We have to admit that it is not democratic. It is not holding itself to the same standards that Israel is required to. No. It doesn't even have to present who are combatants and who aren't. So it is a very difficult war for them to face. It does not excuse what happened in terms of our 7 aid workers this week at all, but we must understand that this will cease faster, the faster Hamas surrenders.
The Prime Minister's given a speech at the Council of Small Business today, hinting that more Energy bill relief is on the way. Referred to last year's budget, says it's a big focus again this year for families and small business. This will be a key thing for the budget, but obviously heading into the next election too, these additional supports, which have had an impact in bringing down prices from what they otherwise might have been, Zoe McKenzie.
Well, can I say well done, Prime Minister, for turning up to a room of small businesses, because that is crazy brave indeed. This government has consistently hit small business left, right and centre. He might be talking about energy price relief, but this is the same bloke who's overseen energy increases of 16% for electricity and about 27% for gas. My industries, my small businesses on the Mornington Peninsula need gas, the same gas that the Victorian Labor government wants to take away from them. So he might be pretending in a liberal light kind of fashion to care about small business, but that is not at all what they are seeing on the ground. Between red tape, the cancellation of $61 million worth of EMDG grants that are used for small businesses to export using our free trade agreement network, and industrial relations changes that haven't really taken full effect yet, and when they do, will smash small business with red tape. I say to him, well done for turning up, but my goodness, you've got a long way to go to convince small business and family businesses that you care one bit. Yeah. Something like half of all small business loans are backed by the family home, on which the average mortgage is costing $24,000 more each and every year. All I see in my electorate is people just holding on in terms of their small business operations. So the Prime Minister needs to do a whole lot more in this area.